In March of this year, North Korean state media released rare footage of a new, massive submarine sitting on an indoor shipyard. The submarine, with a sleek black surface, displayed complete structure and cables in place, indicating a high level of completion. This marked the first time North Korea publicly exposed the construction site of the long-rumored ballistic missile nuclear submarine, which in itself is highly unusual. According to an initial assessment by the Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS, the submarine's pressure hull diameter exceeds 12 meters. This number presents a significant technical paradox. Constructing a 12-meter nuclear submarine hull requires high-strength special steel and must be equipped with heavy-duty machinery, including a 10,000-ton bending machine and large-scale welding platforms, key capabilities that have never been seen within North Korea's known industrial infrastructure. Visually, the submarine adopts the modern elongated drop-shape design common to mainstream nuclear submarines, offering excellent fluid dynamics. This is a stark contrast to North Korea's existing fleet, which is based on the older O-33 class diesel-electric submarines, marking a remarkable leap across generations. It's like a country that has only ever produced biplane propeller aircraft suddenly unveiling a fifth-generation stealth fighter jet, more than just a demonstration, but a declaration that challenges reality. However, the hull is only the beginning. To create a truly strategic nuclear submarine capable of delivering nuclear strikes, it would need to be equipped with a whole suite of complex core subsystems. A compact, high-powered nuclear reactor, a large-diameter sonar array at the bow, a high-precision fire control system and navigation hub, and underwater vertical missile launch tubes. Each of these components, standing alone, represents a challenge of national-scale military engineering, yet this big black fish seems to have assembled them all in a short period. The issue is not about how advanced it is, but rather how complete it is. For an economy that heavily relies on imports for even basic consumer goods and struggles with train ticket systems malfunctioning, how could it independently complete such a massive leap in defense industry capabilities? This isn't development, it's a leap. This isn't a breakthrough, it's a jump through time. All logic eventually points to one question: who is behind it? This submarine was not built by North Korea alone. Behind it lies a hidden network of covert assistants. Who provided the technology, who supplied the reactor, who has been helping test the missiles. What we need to do today is unravel this chain of technical support, segment by segment, and clarify who delivered it, how it was delivered, and why it is being delivered now. Deconstructing the big black fish. Who is the real chief engineer? We don't need to guess about the technological origins of the big black fish. By returning to basic geopolitical knowledge, a clearer, more glaring answer will emerge. Kim Jong-un could not have quietly built a strategic nuclear submarine under Beijing's nose. This is the starting point for all judgment. Every move in the Korean peninsula is always under Beijing's radar. From nuclear tests to missile launches, the international community generally believes that while Beijing doesn't openly support them, it at least provides a default baseline of acceptance. Especially when it comes to nuclear submarines, an asset capable of disrupting regional stability, if Beijing claims to be unaware, that's not a loss of control, it's a lie. Even if the initial design for this submarine came from Russia, it couldn't land in North Korea without one key hurdle: China. North Korea simply does not have the capability to independently procure the materials, equipment, and components needed for this project. Such a large-scale military project cannot function independently of non-Chinese channels. We must face a harsh reality. To build a nuclear submarine with a 12-meter hull, the required high-strength steel, automated welding platforms, hull cable systems, and core electronic components can only be reliably provided by one country, China, both geopolitically, industrially, and politically stable over the long term. Beijing may not have drawn every blueprint, but it likely did three things. 1. Relax the export restrictions on sensitive materials and components. 2. Sent civilian engineering personnel. 3. Provided black box assistance in the reactor and guidance systems. The most direct evidence of this can be found in the submarine's weapon systems. Over the past 2 years, North Korea has showcased three types of submarine-launched weapons: the Polaris ballistic missile, the Tsunami nuclear torpedo, and the new type of submarine-launched cruise missile. Examining their characteristics reveals a clear pattern. They increasingly resemble Chinese equipment, not Russian. Power systems. The Polaris missile uses solid fuel propulsion consistent with China's standards. In contrast, Russia still prefers liquid fuel for similar projects. Penetration design. North Korea's missile has a hypersonic glide warhead, nearly identical in shape to China's Dongfeng 17. Russia's Kinjal missile, by contrast, has faced significant criticism for its performance in real-world combat situations in Ukraine. End-stage maneuverability. Multi-wing trajectory changes and complex control systems are areas China's missiles have focused on in recent years. The models North Korea has shown in recent years closely match these features. Guidance systems. After 2024, North Korea's missile penetration capabilities and accuracy have significantly improved. It is almost impossible for these advances to be the result of indigenous breakthroughs. They are more likely to indicate a complete transfer of guidance algorithms. The conclusion is clear. These missiles are not Russian improved versions, but Chinese branded versions. It doesn't make sense, either logically or practically, for Russia, whose rocket accuracy is still inconsistent, to provide North Korea with an entire submarine-launched missile system capable of breaching US and Japanese Aegis defense lines. As the missile connections are traced back, an entire collaboration model becomes clearer. Hull design, likely from Russia, used as a smokescreen and to mislead. Industrial construction, assembled by North Korea with materials and equipment provided by China. Core systems, the reactor uses China's mature solutions, and the missiles are variant outputs of Chinese systems. The real role of this submarine is not to symbolize North Korea's strong military, but to serve as a deniable underwater nuclear proxy in Beijing's hands. If the Taiwan Strait situation escalates in the future, this submarine could sail under the North Korean identity in the Sea of Japan or the South China Sea, delivering China-made nuclear missiles to the rear of the US and its allies. Beijing could remain silent and disavow in diplomatic settings while effectively achieving its goal of nuclear deterrence against the US mainland. The Big Black Fish is not a show for the world. It has been placed on the chessboard. It is a weapon in Beijing's hands that is deniable but cannot be ignored. When it surfaces, the real message it sends is China's nuclear deterrence boundaries now extend beyond China itself. Shadow Factory, the truth behind the 12 million shells deal. The submarine serves as a front with missiles as its teeth. But to truly understand the hidden black market alliance behind this deal, we need to open the most astonishing list of all: 12 million artillery shells. According to data from South Korea's Yonhap news agency at the end of 2024, North Korea has supplied Russia with 12 million artillery shells. This isn't assistance, it's an industrial-scale war contract. Comparison with Russian consumption, this means Russia could sustain an intense rate of 30,000 shells per day for an entire year. Comparison with Western aid to Ukraine, the total daily shell supply from the US and Europe to Ukraine is only a quarter of what North Korea provides on its own. The question is, does North Korea have the production capacity for this? The answer is clear, it does not. For a country struggling with basic living standards, lacking sufficient steel, chemical materials, automated production lines, and logistics storage, how could it manufacture the world's largest supply of artillery shells? The only reasonable explanation is a more real and hidden system, the China-led White Factory model. Step 1. Building the factory and supplying materials. China provides production lines, gunpowder raw materials, and high-strength steel, packaged as third-party equipment transfer and implanted directly into North Korea. Step 2. Training and quality control. Technical teams enter North Korea to assist with debugging, train workers, and ensure stable product quality. Step 3. Assembly and shipment. North Korean labor completes assembly, then ships the shells by rail or sea to Russia. The core of this structure lies in its plausible deniability. On the surface, it appears to be North Korea's sovereign action, but in reality, key raw materials, technology, and processes are entirely controlled by Beijing. Why is this done? because China cannot directly aid Russia as it would face financial, technological, and energy sanctions. The White Factory model is a perfect channel for circumventing the cost and achieving the goal. These 12 million artillery shells are Beijing's lifeline to Russian President Putin, and in return, Putin provides another secret: submarine blueprints and protection rights. Thus, a three-party conspiracy emerges. Russia, in name, it exports submarine blueprints and covers the implementation of the North Korea-China submarine plan in exchange for a continuous supply of ammunition for the Ukraine battlefield. North Korea gives up land, labor, and the country's name, completing the private label production in exchange for coveted nuclear submarine and missile technology. China doesn't directly intervene, but through the White Factory model achieves three goals: supports Russia, arms North Korea, and circumvents sanctions. Ultimately, China gains a proxy nuclear agent in the form of the submarine. The submarine surfacing is just the tip of the iceberg in this transaction chain. The 12 million artillery shells are the real bargaining chip. From the seabed to the battlefield, from submarine building to ammunition supply, it appears to be a trilateral interaction. Still, in essence, it is a Beijing-controlled nuclear extortion machine operating from afar. Intelligence blind spot. The US saw it, but why remain silent? Now, the sharpest question surfaces. If US military satellites truly have an, quote, eye of God view, how could this cross-border military project possibly escape their attention? Washington's silence, could it be ignorance or something more calculated? To understand this, we need to recognize a key reality in intelligence. Just because something is seen doesn't mean it is fully understood, and knowing something doesn't always lead to confirmation. Even when confirmation is possible, it doesn't guarantee action can be taken. Satellites can capture images of trains passing, cargo ships docking, but they cannot tell whether the materials in the carriages are civilian steel or the high-strength alloys used in submarine hulls. Sensitive materials mixed in bulk shipments resemble any other commodity, like a drop of ink in the Yellow River, indistinguishable and hard to trace. What's more sophisticated is the counterintelligence tactics: cloudy weather shipments, nighttime departures, and reflective camouflage. There is also the most covert method, and migration, splitting the transport into tens of thousands of small batches over years. Each batch seems insignificant, but combined they form a complete chain. Even if traces are found, turning suspicion into hard evidence requires infiltrating China or North Korea's core military-industrial systems. These two countries are long known in the intelligence community as hard targets. Trying to recruit a North Korean arms factory technician or Chinese state-owned enterprise coordinator is as difficult as fighting a war without gunpowder. Even harder is tracking the transaction chain itself. Hidden within third-party companies, disguised in business contracts, laundered accounts and identities, and encrypted transmissions. Even if you know the direction, pinpointing the coordinates is extremely difficult. And one of the key goals of the White Factory design is counter-tracking, counter-location, and counter-tracing. Assuming intelligence agencies have gathered all the evidence, the documents on the president's desk may never be made public. Because once revealed, it exposes the intelligence source, the method of theft, and possibly high-value insiders. In other words, to act on one sanction, the entire strategic intelligence system may need to be sacrificed. The real deadlock lies here. If the US publicly acknowledges that China is arming Russia through North Korea and creating a nuclear proxy, it would trigger a full-scale strategic confrontation with China. Financial decoupling, supply chain rupture, a technological Cold War, and military escalation. This is not merely about sanctions, it marks the beginning of the end of global integration. So the silence we see is not due to ignorance, it's because the US knows too well. The US intelligence system hasn't failed. It likely sees it all very clearly, but Beijing's orchestrated White Factory strategy exploits the deepest loophole of the intelligence era. It lets you see but not speak, know but not act. The pyramid emerging above the surface. If the gap in production capacity and the intelligence silence are only indirect evidence, there is one thing that will piece together all the fragments and provide the final decisive proof. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov's free project management style visits. Over the past 2 years, Lavrov has publicly visited Beijing and Pyongyang 3 times. When we connect these visits, a clear picture of a functioning multinational military-industrial project emerges. The story begins with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. From September 12 to 17, 2023, he traveled by armored train to Russia to meet with Putin, where they laid out a preliminary cooperation agreement. Essentially, the production workshop director himself came to present the cooperation plan to the project manager. A month later, a crucial step unfolded. On October 17, 2023, Putin, accompanied by Lavrov, traveled to Beijing to attend the Belt and Road Initiative 10th Anniversary Summit and held in-depth discussions with Chinese leaders. This was not a routine diplomatic visit. It was a direct request for approval of the plan, aimed at the, quote, top of the pyramid, unquote. To ensure the smooth transfer of submarine designs, military production capabilities, and key components to North Korea, Putin had to personally present the entire plan to Beijing's highest authorities in exchange for the strategic green light. This meeting was the board meeting to kick off the entire cooperation project. 2 days later, the actions were swift. On October 19, 2023, Lavrov visited Pyongyang, where he held closed-door talks with North Korean leaders, widely seen as issuing the military cooperation order. This was followed by a full mobilization of North Korea's military-industrial system. Large-scale artillery shells began flowing continuously to the front lines in Ukraine. Half a year later, the project reached its midterm phase. On April 9, 2024, Lavrov visited China again to meet with China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi and high-ranking Chinese officials. On the surface, this appeared to be a routine diplomatic visit, but from a project management perspective, it was a midterm performance review meeting. The main content included progress and quantities of shell supplies, feedback on combat support for the Russian front, stage achievements in submarine and missile cooperation, and coordination of issues on the operational level. It also served to lay the groundwork for Putin's 2024 state visit. The significance of this visit lay not just in phase acceptance, but in receiving Beijing's approval of the first phase results, thus opening the door for further strategic escalation. In July 2025, the project entered the phase of results delivery and a new stage of deployment. From July 11th to 13th, Lavrov visited North Korea for 3 days, engaging in in-depth talks with Kim Jong-un in Wonsan or the Hot Springs area. They inspected production results and confirmed the completion of the submarine cooperation, ammunition supply, and support for Russia. North Korean state media reported that both sides not only reinforced their combat brothers' cooperation, but also clarified the next phase of support talks, including personnel dispatch and high-end equipment delivery. After the visit, Lavrov went directly to Beijing. On July 15th, he met with China's General Secretary Xi Jinping to discuss China-Russia strategic cooperation, the situation on the Ukrainian battlefield, and the future deployment of the North Korean cooperation project. In Beijing, he also attended the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting, a public trip with strong project handover implications, completing the entire process from showcasing the results to renewing the strategic partnership. 3 visits, 3 pillars, form the foundation of a pyramid-shaped power structure. The base is North Korea, responsible for production. The middle is Russia, responsible for coordination and logistics, providing cover and benefiting, but without decision-making power. At the top is China, responsible for approval, supplies, and full control, serving as the true strategic headquarters. Lavrov's diplomacy is no longer merely about relations between countries. It is a systematized workflow. It tells the world what we're seeing is not just 3 countries, but a multi-layered strategic alliance. The submarine in Sinpo is not the endpoint. It's the KPI on the acceptance report. It is the newest and most dangerous outcome of this alliance. Today, Beijing has created a ghost submarine in Sinpo. Tomorrow, it may want it to appear on Taiwan's eastern coast. Beijing believes this ghost will help it win without fighting. But it overlooks one thing. The whole world is watching, the whole world is recording. The real question is not whether the submarine will move, but rather, when it does, will Beijing still dare to say, "This has nothing to do with me"?